So, last night on Impact Wrestling on AXS TV, we had another appearance by AEW President and CEO Tony Khan and AEW lead announcer Tony Schiavone, because they were back on Impact Wrestling supporting Impact by buying a new All Elite Wrestling ad on this week's show via one of those paid advertisements. Khan and Schiavone appeared in a Happy New Year's gear to mock Impact and hype tonight's AEW Dynamite card. Khan hyped up Rey Fenix ahead of his match with Kenny Omega on tonight's show for the AEW World Championship. In addition to that, Tony Khan talked trash about how Don Callis said he was partially responsible for the creation of AEW, while also hyping up Omega and calling Don Callis a parasite. Khan also called himself a patron of professional wrestling and said that he'll continue to buy another ad next week and the week after that and the week after that using the $100 from his grandma's Christmas card. Tony Khan also, as I mentioned, denied Don Callis' claim. Don Callis, of course, Impact Wrestling Executive Vice President, that Callis was partially responsible for the formation of AEW. Khan said he was really, truly the man responsible for AEW's funding, resources, television relationships, booking, hiring talent, and much, much more. This is what Tony Khan had to say about Don Callis. He said, quote, "You do nothing for the wrestling business. You're a parasite on this business. Meanwhile, as I mentioned, he said that he's a Patreon. He provides." Tony, of course, will be back on Impact Wrestling next week in the form of another paid advertisement. He said that, as I mentioned, he'll pay for this time with a $100 bill that his grandmother sent him for Christmas. As I mentioned, Tony Schiavone's reaction to this line was just absolutely brilliant as well. I spoke about these paid advertisements a lot here on the channel, and I'll continue to do it because personally, I think they just get better and better and better. I mean, they were just fantastic. I've mentioned this before. Tony Khan, for someone that doesn't really have a pro wrestling background, he's a fan like everyone else, just a very, very rich fan and a very good and shrewd businessman, obviously with his variety of projects, whether it's AEW, Jacksonville Jaguars, Fulham over here in the United Kingdom, his other projects that he has in statistics and managing talents in the music industry, hotels, you name it. I think the Khans have hands in several pies, as it were, but he's very good. He's very good. And he mentioned previously about becoming a character that he wasn't going to do it. And he mentioned even during the advert, "I'm not a pro wrestler. I could never do the things in the ring that these guys can." But he's a good talker. He's a good talker. And I think if you do a bit of a timeline here, if you look at all of the paid advertisements that Tony Khan and Tony Schiavone have done for Impact Wrestling so far, and the cameos that they've had on Impact Wrestling on AXS TV, I truly do think they are getting better, and the content in these paid advertisements is getting better and better, and having definitely more substantial content in it, and more content that actually does drive the storyline of Kenny Omega and Impact Wrestling and Don Callis, the working relationship, the rivalry, potential feud somewhere down the line. And these paid advertisements are very effective, I think, in furthering that narrative as we continue trying to figure out what this AEW and Impact relationship truly is. Now, one thing I will mention, I mentioned it last time we spoke about this, that the double bicep pose had disappeared. While it's back. You can see right there, Tony Khan is once again, he's got the arms folded, he's pushing out the biceps. It obviously is a crutch. It obviously is a crutch in how he talks and how he does these promos, because that's what they are. You can call them paid advertisements, you can call them vignettes, you can call them anything. Really what there are, they're promos. They're promos. Now, we don't know how much they're scripted. I think the first one and maybe the second one that he did on Impact way back when, a couple of months ago at this point, or was it the start of December when he had his first appearance on Impact, that one to me felt very much like he was reading off a script ahead of him and maybe cue cards or whatever, teleprompter, I don't know what it was. That felt very rehearsed and very much reading off of the script, and the double hand bicep thing, that kind of felt like a case of it was a crutch, it was a safety blanket for him as he was doing his first real promo on television for a pro wrestling company. Now I just kind of feel like it was kind of him being in a character. It's certainly something that maybe those producing that vignette might actually have to have a word with him. Maybe it's something Tony Schiavone might say to him, go, "Remember, don't do that. You know, you're AEW president, you're the head of the company, you don't..." I don't get that. It's nitpicking. I think, as I mentioned, it's just a crutch. I know I have a million of them on here on YouTube when I'm talking. I repeat myself. You know, you can let me know my crutches in the comment section below. Nevertheless, regardless of the arms being crossed and the double bicep gimmick and all that kind of stuff, Tony Khan is actually really good at these promos. And I don't think at this point that is much of a surprise. I think initially people were slightly taken aback by how good a speaker he was and how clear he was with his words. As I mentioned, most pro wrestling fans at the end of the day, if you've been watching pro wrestling for a long time, you kind of through osmosis pick up the ability to kind of cut a good pro wrestling promo. In addition to that, this is a guy, regardless of his family wealth, has been very successful as a businessman throughout his entire life. So by his very nature, by what job requirements that would entail, he should be a good public speaker. He should be a very clear speaker. If you run multiple businesses in pro wrestling and American football, in soccer, English football, in analytics, in managing hotels and managing music acts, you should probably be a good speaker, a clear speaker, and a very good convincing speaker in that case as well. And I think Tony Khan definitely shows that. So he certainly is getting better as well, which I think is very interesting. He's just very good at doing these pro wrestling promos. And I've said that they get better every week, but they genuinely do. And again, if you look at the timeline of these paid ads on Impact Wrestling, it started off as a bit of a novelty, right? That first episode that did the big number on AXS TV, broke the record on Twitch, with Kenny Omega's first appearance with Don Callis, had the paid advertisement with Tony Khan and Tony Schiavone. I think that first one felt a bit like a novelty, right? It was a case of Tony Khan, look, it's the AEW president. Plus, we've never seen the AEW president on camera before, really cutting a promo, being in the land of pro wrestling, as it were. We've never seen that. We've heard his voice on Dynamite a couple of times. We maybe saw him in a cameo role briefly, a couple of seconds. But when he first made that appearance on Impact back in December, it was really the first time that Tony Khan, I don't want to say the character, but I guess once you're on camera in pro wrestling, you become a character, whether it's a peripheral character or a main character. Once you're on TV, once you're on camera, you become a character and part of the show, because it is a show, it's entertainment. So I think initially my point being is that first vignette that they did was a novelty, and the next one was a bit of still a novelty, like we're back, but it started to get more and more serious. And this is what I mentioned before when we've covered all of these promos that he's done on Impact Wrestling, is that to me it definitely felt like more than a novelty. It felt more than just, oh look, it's the AEW president, we haven't seen him before. It felt like they're trying to drive the story. They're trying to push the story and explain the narrative of the story. And that, I think, is really crucial for me, because the issue would be with this Kenny Omega crossover from AEW to Impact Wrestling, if you really wanted to look into the nuts and bolts of it, would be, how is it legal? In the grand scheme of things, and again, I know people don't like to use the phrase, well, if this was real life, because if you use the phrase, if this was real life, in a lot of TV programs and films, they wouldn't make sense. But in pro wrestling, you have to sometimes use the phrase, if this was real life. And if it was real life, the AEW World Champion, AEW All Elite Wrestling contracted wrestler, wouldn't be able to appear on someone else's pro wrestling program. They wouldn't be able to appear on a rival pro wrestling program the day before their main program airs on TNT, certainly at the same time or just an hour's difference from when their other program is airing on YouTube, AEW Dark, of course. They wouldn't be able to do that. So it does serve a purpose in trying to fill that logical gap there of, how is Kenny Omega even able to appear on Impact Wrestling? Tony Khan always makes mention of it. He didn't actually last night. This was the first time he really didn't make mention of it, but he's saying that I'm allowing Kenny Omega to appear on Impact Wrestling. I could stop it, but I'm not going to stop it. And you've noticed, as I mentioned, that these promos, these vignettes that Tony Khan has been doing on Impact are progressively getting more serious. Started off joking, started off as a novelty, it got more serious, now it's really serious, to the point that Tony Khan is calling Don Callis, the Impact Wrestling Executive Vice President, a parasite. He's trying to defend his record in AEW. He's saying that, no, he's trying to refute what Don Callis has said. He said that Don Callis is saying that he created AEW. I'm pretty sure I'm the president, I'm the CEO, I'm pretty sure it's my money, I'm pretty sure I'm the guy that got the TNT contract, I'm pretty sure I'm the one that pays Kenny Omega his paycheck every month, I'm pretty sure I'm the one that created the championship that Kenny Omega holds right now. That's what Tony Khan is saying in all of these vignettes and all of these promos, and I think that's really important to remember throughout all of this. And we are seeing the creation of a Tony Khan character. I don't expect the character to transfer over to AEW, I don't think, but it's getting more serious, and now he's saying, look, I'm going to continue to do this, I'm going to continue to buy adverts. So not only is he fighting back against Don Callis, calling him a parasite, he's threatening him, saying, look, you can't get rid of me because I'm going to use the system. I'm going to pay for these adverts every single week. Not that the advertising rates are very, very high because they only cost me $100, which I get from my grandma for Christmas. I'm going to do it every week. You can't get rid of me. And if you want to take me on, I'll beat you at your own game. I'll continue to invite you over to AEW Dynamite because it's what's best for business. But I'm going to control this narrative. I'm going to tell the people, I'm going to tell the fans, I'm going to tell everyone, fans of your own program and fans of my company, what legitimately is the case here. And he'll continue to be this rebuttal to the Don Callis character. Now, as I mentioned, is Tony Khan becoming an on-screen character? It's an interesting one to discuss that because, of course, obviously, he said at the beginning of AEW, and especially once they started going on TNT, people asked him in those press conferences and in numerous interviews, are you going to become a TV character? We've seen it all in the past, whether it's Vince McMahon, Eric Bischoff, Paul Heyman, you name it. Eventually, the people that own the company eventually become an on-screen character. That's just the law of pro wrestling, isn't it? And he said, no, I'm not going to be, the Vince McMahon. I'm not going to be on TV cutting promos, firing people. I'm not going to be that character. I have no desire to be that character. And I think at the time people believed him. I think he definitely said that because he had no intention of doing it. But furthermore, he wanted to try and avoid that stereotype of being this very rich fan, this naive fan that eventually would put himself on TV because he's a big mark. Essentially, he's just this giant wrestling mark that eventually he'll get jealous and he'll want to go on TV and cut promos because he wants to be a pro wrestler so bad, damn it. I don't know if that was the case at the time. I think it probably was. Is he becoming a character now? Well, if he's appearing on a pro wrestling program every single week, he kind of is. He kind of is becoming a character. As I mentioned earlier on, once you appear in front of the camera regularly, once you're cutting promos, which he is, once you're filming vignettes, you become a character. This Tony Khan is a version of Tony Khan. I don't think it's the real life version of Tony Khan. I don't think he goes around calling people parasites or anything like that. But now this is a version of Tony Khan that is going to appear on Impact Wrestling TV. This is going to be a case for Tony Khan going forward. And I guess he is becoming an on-screen character. I guess he is becoming something that he didn't envisage himself becoming previously. And it's like I've spoken about before here. He's now in a feud with Don Callis. We have the feud with Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley going on in AEW. We have the crossover with Kenny Omega now joining up with the Good Brothers once again to perform the Bullet Club. They're feuding with Rich Swann and the Motor City Machine Guns in Impact Wrestling. I think eventually Kenny Omega will start feuding personally with Rich Swann in Impact Wrestling. I think Kenny Omega will become the Impact World Champion. And I think in Impact Wrestling, maybe not so much on AEW TV because I think Tony Khan is still hesitant to be a full-blown character on AEW Dynamite on TNT. But on Impact Wrestling television, I think Tony Khan's becoming a character and he's having this feud with Don Callis. Don't worry though, we're not going to get any physicality. We're not going to have a Tony Khan match or anything like that. I think Tony Khan has definitely ruled that out and I don't think anyone truly has the desire to see that. But this continued feud with Don Callis, I mean, if Kenny Omega has a mouthpiece, I guess AEW itself needs a mouthpiece, and that's going to be Tony Khan and Tony Schiavone in these paid advertisements. It's logical. It's logical. Because realistically, does AEW need to promote their program Dynamite during Impact Wrestling? Of course they don't. Impact Wrestling gets a fraction of the live viewership that AEW does. AEW doesn't need to promote Dynamite. No one's watching just Impact Wrestling goes, I tell you what, I never heard of this AEW before. I'm going to watch AEW Dynamite. Thanks for the advertisement. Of course they're not. They don't need to advertise during Dynamite, and it's not a real advertisement. Of course they don't need to do these promos every week. So why are they doing them? They're doing them to further the storyline. They're doing them to have some logic, continue the narrative, and explain this situation as to what's going on with Tony Khan, what's going on with AEW, and what's going on with this relationship, this feud with Impact Wrestling, specifically Don Callis and Tony Khan. It's logical. I guess the rebuttal to that would be, should AEW promote Impact Wrestling more during Dynamite? I do think they should. I think, obviously, the biggest number that Impact Wrestling had ever done on AXS TV was coming off the Hot Angle on the Winter is Coming edition of Dynamite, where Kenny Omega defeated Jon Moxley, and at the end of the show, Don Callis says, find out more Tuesday night on Impact Wrestling on AXS TV. Since then, have we seen a ton of Impact Wrestling plugs on AEW Dynamite? No, we haven't. We really haven't at all, really. We haven't seen many responses in terms of paid advertisements. We haven't heard much of Don Callis saying, tune in Tuesday night on Impact Wrestling on AXS TV. Maybe once, maybe twice, but nothing as big and direct as we saw on the Winter is Coming edition of Dynamite. Maybe they do need to see that more, and maybe Impact Wrestling, if they want to get the big ratings back and the big number that they did previously, maybe they need to do that. So I suppose you could argue that maybe AEW do need to promote Impact Wrestling more, but I'm sure they've worked that out, or they're figuring that out as they're working out indeed what this relationship is going forward. I suppose tonight, of course, you've got the New Year's Smash edition of Dynamite on TNT. A question now is, will the Good Brothers appear on AEW Dynamite this week? It's been rumoured that they're going to be appearing very, very soon. That's part of this crossover deal, is that Kenny Omega will be on Impact and the Good Brothers will go to Dynamite. Will that happen tonight? It's a possibility. We know Jon Moxley is returning tonight on the New Year's Smash edition of Dynamite, so it's absolutely a possibility that a segment could be had where Kenny Omega goes face-to-face with Jon Moxley and then Jon Moxley is attacked by the Good Brothers. I wouldn't rule it out. But going back to these paid advertisements, I really, really enjoy them, and I know I've covered every single one at this point, but frankly, it's because I think they're really good, and it continues the feud. I think also they're trying to reignite the spark in this AEW and Impact Wrestling crossover. This feud, of course, it had a ton of buzz, a ton of momentum when it first happened. Obviously, that's dissipated slightly for a variety of reasons. Of course, you had the two best of shows when it comes to Impact Wrestling, so they haven't really aired much original content in terms of things that have been storyline driven over the course of the last 2 weeks. That changed, of course, with the first episode of Impact in 2021 last night. Of course, on the AEW side of things, there's been a ton of stuff going on over there that takes way more precedent, of course, at the moment. So that's been the situation there, I think, and that's been the case of why things maybe feel like they've dropped off a little bit, but I expect them to pick back up. And having Tony Khan appearing on Impact Wrestling every week, it's an air of reality, isn't it? It's an air of reality on the show, and I really like it. So Tony Khan said last night that they're going to continue, and I'm all for it. I think he's doing a fantastic job with his little, on-camera experience in professional wrestling. I think he's getting better and better, and I'm excited to see more. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on the latest paid advertisement by AEW President Tony Khan and Tony Schiavone last night on Impact on AXS TV? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So make sure to get involved with the community below. Drop a comment. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button as well. Really does help us out here on YouTube, go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.